Okay, after your discussion last week on unexpected plans, it was nice to see this follow up on an unexpected plan that blossomed into a phenomenal, enriching experience for Mitchie and the 5 students involved. Please read and reflect on the following quote. That's part of what teaching is about, the willingness to explore with kids, to reach them, to follow a dimly lit path together, often unaware of the dazzling surprises that may wait around the bend.
Right. I think it has a lot to do with what we talked about last week about teachable moments. I think we all agreed on that. The willingness to explore with kids, I think that's part of everyday teaching. Um, Giving them a moment to just look and see and feel and think about how things are going, or even if it's just reading a book, to just take the time to explore what's happened already, what they think's going to happen. I think exploring with kids is like almost in every lesson you'll ever teach.
I agree, and I think a lot of that goes along with like how we talked about the teachable moments. If you're teaching a lesson and a kid raised their hand and asked you a question and it wasn't something that you were expecting or not really something that you had planned, but still it sparks interest in the other kids and they seem excited about it, then you should be able to use that moment to explore with your kids. And even if you don't even really know what you're doing, just kind of like seeing where they take it and what they're interested in, and then you can build off of that like for future lessons. um, and how you said even just like reading a book, um, we've been doing a lot with prediction, and so we've had them pick out books and like explore through the pictures and see
Mm-hmm.
if they what they think's going to happen in the book or if they're going to like it. So just little things like that, like you said, I think that happens every day.
But what was that thing about? Like, I know he had the 5 students read or whatever that book, but why was he even doing that?
He wanted to
He
read.
had them come before school, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he wanted them. He wanted to have the recordings for his other students.
Oh.
So he wanted the 8th graders who he thought could read probably way better than his 6th grade class.
Oh, but I thought it was cute how like they wrote that letter because
Yeah.
that was like the path or whatever it says, like how you don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but like you still can explore and you can still write that letter. Like I think that was a good idea, and even how he told them, he's like, we might not hear back from her, but
Yeah.
hearing back, I thought that was like really good for the students. Like how he had them come back and meet her and everything. I thought that was really good.
It says to explore with kids, to reach them, to follow a dimly lit path together.
Oh, and also how in the book it said like how the one girl was like the house caught on fire or something. Like I feel like that was what we were talking about the other week too. It was like sometimes
something
like the
happens.
community
Yeah.
or like the school, and sometimes you just have to tie it into what happens. But I mean they only talked about that for a little bit,
Yeah.
But still, like the quote says, like that's a good way to reach kids. Like if something big happened in the community or something like that, the example in the book, like it's not going to be beneficial to just ignore it and not talk to it. And that's not how you're going to reach your kids. So if you take a moment to explore what happened with them and let them talk about it and have discussions with each other and with you about it, then that's going to teach them more than maybe even if you followed your exact lesson plan out of the math book that day or whatever.
And that could also avoid misbehavior.
Yeah.
She's keeping it in all day. Something might
Yeah.
strike her and, set her off. Whereas if they took the time to talk about it, they got it out of their system, they explored it, they, just went with it. And then when he felt the appropriate time to end it and then that was over, and he went with that. And I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Often unaware of dazzling surprises that may wait around the bend. I mean, I think with any lesson, there's always something that could come up at any time, at anywhere you are, that there could be a surprise that somebody knows something that you would never think that they would know, or.
And also like I don't know, sometimes you have to try to make like your lesson plans like scripted, like you're gonna say this, the kids are gonna say this, but you never know what they're gonna say.
Right.
Yeah.
You never know
and they never say what you think
yeah,
they're going to
what
say
like
either.
could trigger them to think about something, and then out of nowhere they're shouting out something
Yeah.
like that has nothing to do with what you're teaching about, but it's for some reason reminded them of that. So again, like you can try to plan out your lessons like as detailed as could be, but it doesn't always go like that.
And I think like with exploring, a lot of some teachers kind of always refer that to like science experiments. like let them explore like
Yeah.
just like certain things. Where I think whereas exploring, you can, like I said earlier, you can put that with any subject, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is that like yesterday we had like a huge science experiment. They were like looking at trees and bark and leaves and all this kind of stuff. But then like go back to like any lesson, like just message, like they're exploring these letters, they're exploring these words. So I think it's important that a lot of teachers use the word explore
Mhm.
more often during the day throughout their lessons and stuff like that.
And I think too, just like going along with what we talked about last week, you know, like you just have to use your common sense and
Mhm.
your good judgment. And if you're learning about trees and someone raises their hand and says, I have a cat, like, you know, you ignore the comment or say cool and move on. But, you know, you don't start teaching a lesson about cats.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just have to use like your best judgment and think in your head, like, can I turn this into something
Mhm.
else that the students are going to be interested in? Should we explore this, or is it something to just be left alone?
I think in order to reach them too, you have to know them a little bit, like get to know them, know their likes and their dislikes, and just like knowing what could trigger something. Like if you have, I don't even know of an example to use, but like if you know that what you're about to say could trigger something else, then don't hold back. Like just keep going with it, and like let them think that they're bringing up the subject or
So
target.
kind
or
of like
whatever.
scaffolding them
Yeah,
to
scaffolding them exactly.
think of the idea
Mhm.
for exploration on their
Right.
own.
Like, don't just give them the answer. Let them explore it. Let
Yeah.
them figure it out. Let them reach that surprise on their own.
Yeah.
All right. Sound good? Yeah. See you later.